G'day. This year sees the longest F1 season ever. Entirely new cars, a new race, a new driver, and two older ones returning. Welcome to the 2026 F1 season. And could you please check that you're subscribed, because about 50% of you aren't. F1's longest ever season kicks off on Sunday, March 8 with the Australian Grand Prix and ends on December 6. That's 274 days from the first race to the last. It includes 3 weekends off in the summer break, 2 weekends off between Miami and Canada. There are 5 standalone races and 2 triple headers that take in the last 6 races. And that's going to be a grind, considering that one of those legs, Las Vegas to Doha, is a minimum 16 hours in the air and an 11-hour time difference. That is brutal. Thankfully, the Vegas race is on a Saturday, so it gives us 1 extra day to recover. The season kicks off on March 8th in Albert Park in Melbourne. Australia, obviously, my home country. This could be the biggest race of the year in terms of spectators. Last year, this race was only about 20,000 behind Silverstone. But this year they've added new grandstands, and there's a huge level of interest in this race because really we have little idea of who's going to be the quickest. Yes, we've seen some testing in Barcelona. Maybe it gives us some idea, but I think people will want to be there to see those 22 cars do 58 laps of Albert Park and see who is actually the quickest. Of course, the record crowd for an F1 race goes back to another Australian track in Adelaide, 520,000 for the final race in Adelaide in 1995. I'm not sure Victoria could match that, but certainly I think it'll go very close to being the biggest race of the year with all of those factors. But a couple of other things for Albert Park. There is some new bridges across the track and a new walkway across the lake, which will speed traffic flow. And can hometown hero Oscar Piastri be the first Australian driver to win an Australian Grand Prix? He's a Melbourne boy, went to school in Melbourne. It would be a fairy tale story if that was to play out. Now this year I expect 2 to 4 post-race disqualifications. Over the past 8 years, we've had 15, so nearly 2 per year. But this year, with the new cars and not a great deal known about them, I think it'll be more. In 2018, we saw Grosjean, Ocon and Magnussen ruled out post-race. 2019, Ricciardo and Hülkenberg in Japan for an illegal driver aid related to brakes. 2021, Sebastian Vettel ruled out in Hungary. In 23, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc had excessive skid block wear at the US GP. In 2024, George Russell was disqualified after the Belgium Grand Prix. And in 2025, we had Leclerc, Gasly in China underweight, along with Hamilton with excessive skid block wear. Nico Hülkenberg disqualified in Bahrain, and one of the biggest disqualifications of the year, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri disqualified after the event finished in Las Vegas for going below that 1 millimetre of permissible wear on their skid block. Certainly those disqualifications bring drama, disappointment and excitement to the sport. Let's look at some other races. Madrid, brand new this year. Will it be ready? There's a fair amount of chat saying it won't be ready. When is the point of no return? When do they have to make a decision by? We're not sure. And who'll get that race if indeed they're deemed not to be prepared? I believe it will be Imola. At the end of this year, we'll lose Zandvoort from the calendar along with Belgium, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Belgium rejoin the calendar, perhaps year on, year off with, say, Portugal, which will be 2027. What about Japan? They lose their hometown hero this year. Yuki Tsunoda no longer in Formula One. Will that affect ticket sales at that race? The Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku will take place on a Saturday due to a national holiday. Now, how many people will forget that and go and make their travel plans around Sunday? I've nearly done that twice, and I work in the sport. So if you're planning travel, bear that one in mind. Will Christian Horner be back in the paddock? I say yes, and I'm surprised we haven't seen an announcement already. He's working on purchasing a stake in the Alpine team, or Alpine. But what role will he take, and will he be alongside Flavio Briatore? It's all juicy stuff, and at some point we'll find out. Can Lando Norris keep his number 1 for more than a year? At the moment, George Russell is favourite to take out the championship in a Mercedes that appears to be a race winner. But you'll say it's still early days, yes? That's all we've really got to go on. Certainly, Toto Wolff has been quite critical of other teams whinging about the new Merc engine. Of course, those teams that use his engine, McLaren, Williams and Alpine, aren't saying anything. I imagine they're feeling quietly confident. Over at Red Bull, we've seen a thorough clean-out over the past 12 to 18 months with pivotal people going. Adrian Newey, Christian Horner, Helmut Marko. There's a new team principal, Laurent Mekies. He's certainly turned things around. But the big question will be, will Red Bull crush another young driver? Alex Albon lasted just 26 races, Pierre Gasly 12, and poor Liam Lawson a mere 2. This year, Isaac Hadjar takes up that role. And of course, with past young drivers, it starts out well. Everybody's excited, lots of love and support. But at the end, It's a lonely old affair with huge pressure on young shoulders. Maybe Monsieur Hadjar is the man to break that run. And if he doesn't, what's next? That's what's tattooed on Valtteri Bottas's leg, and he rejoins Formula One at rookie team Cadillac. I can tell you he's certainly lapping up his return to racing.
That's what I want to be. That's what I want my next project to be.
His teammate Checo Perez is also pumped about returning, and in a team where he won't be the second driver. It'll be a huge relief for him to join a team that he can really shape. He did say that at Red Bull it was a problem if he was slower than Max, and it was also a problem if he was faster than Max. Certainly the F1 world is not expecting too much from this rookie team. Look, they'll be focused on getting their car to the track first, then focusing on reliability before points and podiums ever come into play. The US support, though, should be huge. And for those fans to view Formula One in 2026 in the US, you'll need an Apple TV subscription. Apple took over from ESPN as the US broadcaster. They're paying about 50% more than what ESPN did. And frankly, I have little idea if this is going to be good or bad for you US viewers. I guess those people with Apple TV will be rubbing their hands with glee, and those with ESPN, not so. But hey, if it works, Apple could end up with the whole lot. Worldwide rights. No more Sky, perhaps. No more Canal Plus. No more Viaplay. It's an interesting prospect. And this year there'll be great attention on one F2 driver, that being Colton Herta. He's ditched a successful IndyCar career to take up a seat at high-tech racing under the guidance of ex-Alpine team principal Oliver Oakes. He'll need to pick up 5 extra super license points to qualify him for an F1 seat next year, and Cadillac will be the team that he'll go to if he gets a gig, I imagine. And if he does do well, Checo or Valtteri is likely to lose their seat. The question being asked back at Silverstone is, can Adrian Newey work a miracle with Aston Martin? He recently said the team was 3 or 4 months behind others with wind tunnel development. Now, from some basic pics at Barcelona testing, the car looked amazing. But can it win races? That would be something to see Fernando or Lance on the top step of the podium. Ferrari, they've given their fans some hope after some good times at pre-season testing in Barcelona, but they've done that in years gone by. Certainly the focus will be on Lewis Hamilton. He needs to get back on the podium. Many pundits say if he has another year like last year, it could well be over. If so, would he go to a mid-tier team? I doubt it. And would a top team want him if he hasn't done well at Ferrari? That is a fascinating story to watch throughout this year. And still on the subject of Lewis Hamilton, what would be the chances this year of seeing Kim Kardashian in the paddock, given that the pair have been romantically linked? That would be an absolute winner for Formula One. Franco Colapinto, will he get his first points? Last year was disappointing for him, but of course Alpine have ditched their engine for a Mercedes, and that should help. One thing's for sure though, the drivers will have to do a lot more work behind the wheel, managing battery and energy deployment, selecting the appropriate aero modes, and making tactical decisions about when and how to use their boost. Some saying the younger drivers will have it over the older drivers in being able to pick up that sort of technology quickly. I don't know, you tell me. And will Audi's megabucks behind them mean a better car? The thing looks good, but that doesn't pay the bills. But it certainly has Nico and Gabrielle excited about 2026. The Hungaroring will have their pit building fully operational this year. Last year, a whopping great section in the middle wasn't ready. But by July, that will certainly be remedied. And will Abu Dhabi end up with a cliffhanger like we had last year? The excitement of everything on the line in the final race is great for the sport, great for me as a content creator, and I imagine you as a fan. There's been plenty of talk about Williams missing that Barcelona test. Will it prove costly? They failed 3 crash tests. Their car was way overweight, but since they passed that crash test, the car has reportedly been trimmed down. Of course, there's something quite delicious about not knowing which cars will be fast. From Barcelona testing, Cadillac was the slowest of all. They were some 4 seconds slower than the fastest times. But we'll get a better read on things once we've finished with the 2 3-day sessions of testing in Bahrain. Last year we saw a couple of shock podiums. Nico Hülkenberg and Isaac Hadjar. Super for the sport, and I think we'll see a couple more this year. Which drivers? Got no idea. We'll have to wait and find out. And what will 22 cars on the track look like? Certainly there'll be more propensity for drama at the first turn, but once racing settles down at long tracks like Spa, Vegas and Jeddah, I imagine there'll be not much difference. But at Monaco, just 3.3 kilometres, that's about 2 miles, I'd say it's going to be noticeable. What adding that extra team has done, though, is made it tougher to get accommodation in race cities. An additional 400 plus room nights are now required in each of those 24 race cities. It's made it harder to find quality accommodation close to the track and forced rates up, and that affects everybody. Well, not those of you sitting at home watching it on television, which of course is the majority. This will be one of the most eagerly awaited seasons on record. F1, the teams, broadcasters and media are all set to reap the rewards. I'll be going to all races again. I'll be ramping up my content and you'll expect more videos both from the track and away from it. Plus, I think I'll cover a MotoGP race. There are a couple of weekends this year where I have gaps, and rather than return home, I may just head out to a European MotoGP race and see what that's like. And I'll be sharing that with you, of course, on my YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, Threads, everything. Now, before you go, could you please hit that like button? For those of you not subscribed, I once again plead with you to get on board. Love to have your company for the rest of the season. And for a whole lot of extra content and merchandise, head over here and have a look. Thanks for watching and stay passionate. Reliability, that will be the key.